There you go. All right. Um, okay, so we'll go on to the next slide, I guess. And there is a survey. We would really appreciate those that are joining us today, if you wouldn't mind. Again, it's got a QR code, excuse me, and a link there that you could go to complete the survey. Excuse me, we want to make sure that we're addressing the needs out there in regards to GIS knowledge build, but also this is for the folks that are maybe not a member yet of CGIA, maybe curious about it. So yeah, so there's that. Um, did we want to go to that slide already, or was there another slide about membership? Tracy?
I think that's on the next page. You can go ahead
Oh,
and
okay. All right. So yeah, and the CGIA, our association, we do come together in person at times. And so this is one of the social events that we have coming up in July on the 13th, Monday evening, and we'll be in San Diego and attending at the Revel restaurant cafe place in San Diego. And we're going to have an awards social that night, and folks are welcome to attend if you happen to be down there. It's in conjunction, of course, with the annual ESRI user conference. So I hope that you guys can join us. Yeah. So anyway, there's that social. And in regards to CGIA, why you may want to join us, there's a QR code too to find out more about membership. But we advocate for California GIS. We do all kinds of meetings and information sharing, but we try to support GIS standards, do best practices, look at legislation that might be affecting California and in the nation in regards to GIS. Of course, we have the awards recognition and achievements there. Also promoting California GIS professionals. We also share best practices. So a lot of case studies we look at, contract documents, strategy papers, position descriptions, policies, and standards. And we have create peer networks. We have a really good circle of folks. I know from my perspective, I'm tribal, so there's times where some tribes may want some historical maps. And so I reach out to my peers, and sure enough, somebody comes up with a solution. So it's a really good network circle of folks. And we also have Discover training. There's different kinds of trainings, like as these webinars on AI is one form of how we engage the community out there. We look at internships and job opportunities as well, postings for that. So yeah, lots to do when you join CGIA, and there's a link there to become a member if you'd like. All right. And okay, and this is my slide here. I actually brought up the concept of xAI, and I had attended a Indigenous Data Sovereignty conference in Tucson and heard a speaker talk about this. And it was my first time hearing about it, and it was back in April, I believe. And so wanted to kind of make sure that when we look at xAI, what it means for this particular webinar is explainable artificial intelligence. And it's so important that we look at what these AI modeling tools do out there, and AI is out there quite a bit, of course, and making sure that it's addressing like the challenges of bias, fairness, and regulatory compliances. And it also allows organizations to understand how AI models make decisions, ensuring that these systems are reliable and ethical. So some of the key principles there of xAIs, the transparency aspect, the interpretability, and accountability. So these are some of the key principles of xAI. You can read the details there. And also there's the source of where this comes from is from the IBM, what is explainable AI. It's a good article there that you could read. So yeah, so it's important that we embrace, certainly we're embracing AI. We're a little worried about it at times, but really when we look at it, the xAI aspect of it is really focused on that, addressing the fairness and the bias and the regulatory compliances. So yeah, so I'm going to move forward and we're going to start with our presenters. I'm hoping that the first presenter that we have is Dr. Wang, and I don't know if she's joined us yet.
I don't think she has.
Okay, so she's in Poland. So yeah, so we're working on connectivity for her to the webinar. All right, well, we'll go on to the next speaker then. And we have Christopher Moravec. He's Chief Technology Officer with Dymaptic out of Oregon. He's actually in Portland today. And so I'm going to turn this over to Christopher, and there's his bio that you guys can read, and he's got a LinkedIn account as well. So, Christopher, thank you for joining us and appreciate the opportunity to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Okay, the one thing I can't do, and I can't share my screen and talk at the same time. I'm not good enough at this to do that, so I have to do this share, and that's probably the right thing. Hooray. Okay. So my name is Christopher Moravec. I am the CTO of a small GIS custom software development and services company. We do everything from install ArcGIS Enterprise to build custom software, but that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Um, about a year and a half ago, I started writing a newsletter about AI because I felt like I had been talking to everyone about it for the last couple of years, being like, hey, large language models, these chatbot things are going to change everything. And I don't think you're listening to me. So I started writing a newsletter about it, and that led to me posting on LinkedIn. And now here we are today uh, because I just had to keep talking about it, I guess. So I have a lot of opinions about ethics and how to use AI properly because it is incredibly powerful and um, it is an amazing tool for getting work done and for doing things that I couldn't have done without it. But used incorrectly, it is also a weapon, to quote a young person that I had an interview with this week. And so there's a lot here in how we do this, and there's kind of three things that I want to unpack, but I want to start with a brief story. When I was at university, I had the slogan for the school was fearless engineering. And the idea was to promote that you should dive into problems and try to solve them. But calling it fearless engineering had kind of a side effect, and several of the professors actually really didn't like the name. And the reason they didn't like the name was that they felt that it inspired you to not think critically about the work you were doing. And the example was if you're an engineer and your job is to build a bridge, you should be at least a little bit afraid of the consequences if your bridge falls down. And so you should spend some time like internalizing that so that when you are building, when you are engineering things and designing things, you're thinking about what is the consequence of what it is that you're doing. And I think that is kind of the basis for what I want to talk about. So I build with this stuff every day. I write applications. I have my own AI framework that does everything from generate art about conversations that I make, like is in my background here, to running my garage door and my air conditioning and things like that in my mad science laboratory, also known as my garage. Um, so what I want to share today is kind of how I approach this with these kind of small practical tips, these things that you can all do. And hopefully, I also don't have all the answers. There's a lot of complex topics inside AI, from was it legal for them to train large language models to begin with, to should it be used for therapy? There are so many things in here that we can't talk about all of them in one session. So what I want to start with is this idea that AI surfaces, but you decide. You as the human are responsible for the decisions, and so you should be making them. And this goes back to equity is first a data problem. And how we collect that data matters. What our boundaries are matter. And I'll give you an example. I did a project with a large municipality where they wanted to invest more money in where to build sidewalks. They wanted to make better sidewalks, and they knew that their 411 requests complaining about sidewalks were not where they should spend the capital money on sidewalks. What they really wanted to do was spend it where people are going to walk to school or walk to work, and improve or add sidewalks to those locations within the city. And so they asked us to do an analysis of this. And well, the first thing you do is you pull in the sidewalk data and you start looking at what you have. And the biggest problem was that we didn't know where the sidewalks were. And there was an immediate bias in the data. The data where we knew about sidewalks were already affluent areas, and where we didn't know if there were sidewalks or not were the lower income areas. So there was already a built-in bias in the data before we even started the process. And recognizing that is kind of the first step. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing it with AI or not. So I think probably everybody on this call knows about this, right? But how you process data also matters. So if we take our example of the lead water in Flint, Michigan, right? The whole problem there was a modifiable areal unit problem, in that the way that they divided up the data to look at it masked patterns, right? So not only does how the data is collected matter, but how we look at it matters. Oftentimes, as GIS folks, was definitely the case early on in my career for me. I would do an analysis, I would build an application, and I would deliver those results to someone else whose job it was to make the decision. I was not the decision maker, but it was my job to make sure that they had the information to make the decision. And whether or not I realized it back then, and I really didn't, but looking back on it, I realized that I had the power to influence those decisions, because I could have changed how I presented that data to the people that were making those decisions. But it was my job not to do that. And the same thing starts to happen when you're interacting with a large language, with a chatbot, with an AI. It's your job as the person interacting with it to make sure that you're the one making the decision, and that you understand the data that's going into the process, so that the AI isn't making the call. And I think that that is a fundamental thing that is really important, is that AIs are terrible at making decisions. They're really good at gathering data. They're really good at summarizing information. They're good at building you steps to execute workflows for analysis, but they are not good at making decisions. That still belongs in a human brain. And so I think what that means is that you can use AI to do all of this work and do all of these things. But when it comes down to it, you're still responsible for the decisions. You're responsible for the consequences of what you're building, whether or not you used an AI, to kind of drop back to my fearless engineering there. Okay, so that's kind of my first point that I want to make, is that AI is not good at making decisions. It's good at data gathering, processing, helping you build systems to understand the data, understand the problem, and build a solution. But that solution, that decision, is still up to you. Same thing if you ask it to write code for you. You ask it to write code and it will build something, but the more specific you are with your request, the better that build is going to be. Okay, that's one. Point two is about secret cyborgs. And this is a complicated topic, I think. But what I mean by secret cyborg is someone who uses AI and doesn't disclose it. So this is, I respond to an email and my AI wrote that email and I didn't even bother to read it, and I just sent it back. That's a secret cyborg. And I don't think that's appropriate. If you're going to write an email response with an AI, that's fine. I'm actually personally okay with that. But it should say that this was written by my AI assistant, not by me. so that I, as a human reading it, know what or who I am interacting with. So disclosing what you did. Almost everything I do every day has a component to an AI in it these days. But I always work hard to disclose how I use the AI in that work. Whether it helped me build the outline or it wrote the draft and then I rewrote it, or if it produced the entire report, I want to be transparent about how I used it in my process. And if I'm willing to stand by my work, which I should be, then I should be willing to say how an AI helped me, just like I'd be willing to say how a human or someone else or a piece of software helped me. The AI is just another tool in my toolbox, and I should disclose that I used it. But I should not replace myself with it. I should augment myself, right? I should make myself better at my job, but I should not replace myself with it. The models often behave like really good interns. They're incredibly smart, incredibly capable, but they have no street knowledge. They have no real world expertise. And that's where you come in. That's what you bring to the mix. You don't have to press all of the buttons to run all the geoprocessing tools necessarily. The AI can press the buttons for you. But deciding what data goes in, what weights to add to an index, that has to come from your brain, going back to the decision process, right? So I'm not replacing my decision process. I am still the expert, but I am speeding up the building and execution process. Don't be the secret cyborg. Don't copy and paste, right? Just don't do that. And if you ask an AI a technical question because you're trying to you're trying to get through a block or something like that, and the AI said, well, it's not possible to do that. Don't just repeat that back to your boss. Well, Claude said that it's not possible to do that. Like, be sure, figure it out, because Claude does not always know the answers to these things. And I think that this is a really interesting topic because I see two things happening here. One, we see layoffs in the news where folks are getting laid off and companies are saying that it's because they figured out how to use AI. I'm pretty sure that they're just using that AI to cover up layoffs that they needed to make anyway because they overhired 2 years ago and all the chickens came home to roost. Okay. I don't think it's actually because they figured out AI, because if they did, something very different would be happening. For me, if I could execute AI at that level where I could replace entire humans, which I can't, I'm trying, but I can't do it, I would do more. I would build more. I would create more. I would not lay people off. I would make my smaller company behave like a bigger company. I would be able to do more and achieve more with fewer resources. So like being creative, I think is really important there. So we see companies like failing to be creative, I think is fundamentally what's happening there. There's a really great story where IKEA did a good job of being creative. They actually replaced a large chunk of their support staff with an AI tool. And then they turned around and they said, well, now we have like 50% of our support staff don't have anything to do. So what's the next thing? And what was interesting is when they started looking at support requests, the next thing was interior design questions. So they turned around and they retrained all of those staff to be interior designers so that you could go to IKEA and you can go to the website and you can pay $90 or whatever it is to talk to an interior designer and get on a Zoom call like this, where they help you place things in your room and help you pick colors and do all of that. And guess what? Everybody's happier. You're more satisfied as the client because you have a nice, warm layout that you were trying to achieve. IKEA was able to open up a whole new service line. You bought more stuff and you're happier with it. Like everybody wins in that environment. And that's a really good example of doing a good job of augmenting processes and being creative and not just laying people off because you thought you had cracked AI. On the other hand, we have employees and staff that are just copying and pasting and trying to replace themselves with an AI. So you have like this back and forth, this chicken and egg problem starting to happen. And I think it's a complicated problem. And neither group of people should be doing what they're doing. You shouldn't be laying people off because you cracked AI. You should be doing more and being more creative. But you also shouldn't be trying to replace yourself with AI. You should be using your brain to be creative in your own job. Related to that is this idea of not rubber stamping AI's output. Um, One thing that worries me about this is metadata generation in GIS. Um, we are bad at making metadata about our layers. Like, I think we can all agree and we can admit that we have all been the person who didn't fill out all the metadata when they published a layer and made it public. But now there are AI tools that can generate this metadata for us. So we just click a button and click save. Except, how do we know it's right? We have to read it. We still have to put our names on it. And so I actually like these tools that can generate metadata. I wish that they all would just say in them, generated by an AI at the bottom, until you read it and then you delete that at the bottom because you agree with the content and you think it's right. And so, because that is just going to cause more problems downstream, right? Once you build that metadata gets read by another AI to help some other person do some other process. And if that metadata was wrong, then the downstream result might be wrong. And so it matters that we don't rubber stamp this, that we read it and that we pay attention to it. The AI can speed us up, but we have to make the decisions. So speaking of that, here's my AI disclosure for this. I did not make these slides. These slides were made by my AI, which I call JAWS. It started from me pulling together a bunch of notes that I had about what I wanted to talk about, a bunch of newsletters, various recordings of myself. And then we, together with that AI, built an outline of what I wanted to talk about. And then we put these slides together using my template. And then I edited by explaining to the AI what I wanted. Is this the most efficient way to build a PowerPoint presentation? Not always, no. But I do these experiments so that you don't have to. It's a fascinating way to build something through an entity, but it's not always the most efficient. Quick side note about deepfakes. Please don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't ever make a picture that shows that someone else was doing something that they didn't do or saying words they didn't say. I don't think that's appropriate. Like, full stop. And we as a society need to have norms that make it not okay to do this. I think there is a technical fix to be able to actually have a device or a encoding or a something that can help prove that I was or wasn't at a place at a time saying a thing. But it's a very hard problem. It's actually much easier to make a deep fake of me saying something than it is to prove that I said something. I mean, we are almost at a point in AI where this entire presentation could be, a recording of me generated by an AI saying these words. It's not, I can't really prove it to you, but I promise this is like real. There's like airplanes and all kinds of crazy stuff back here. But it's important that we don't allow this in society, I think. Okay, so that is the end of my soapbox. And the last section is there are some weird, new, interesting problems here. Water, electricity usage are the big ones. The good news is we are already working on this. It's just not what we talk about very much. So the first thing I want to talk about is water. I'm not going to talk about this for very long because it is kind of a hard topic to talk about. But what I want to point out is that over the last couple of years, year-ish, different people have said different amounts of water are consumed by a query. And the error bars on these numbers, like OpenAI said like 0.3 milliliters up to, there's another study that says about 500 milliliters. The difference in all of these numbers that I could find was about 2,000 times. Okay, what that means is no one knows. That's what that means. That means we don't know the answer to this question. It was very hard to calculate. The most public thing that I've seen where someone tried was actually Hank Green. I know there are researchers trying to figure this out, but it is a hard problem. There are questions like, where do you draw the line? Do you go all the way back to electricity usage? Because most of our electricity usage also consumes water. Or do you stop at only when I ask the AI a question? Do you include the training, the water that was used in the training? What if some of the data centers didn't use evaporative cooling? They used a closed system, so the water wasn't lost, it was reused. We don't know all of the answers to these questions, so this question is very hard to answer. There's also kind of a big glaring thing, I think, here. So I'm very pro electric car, and it turns out that way more water every year gets used to grow corn that goes directly into ethanol to run our cars than data centers use. Orders of magnitude more water. So if we really wanted to solve water problems, we would work on electric cars faster, not on slowing down data centers. Electricity, though, is a different problem. Um, I think electricity is going to double by like 2030, like total electricity usage. That's a lot. We're not ready for that. The grid's not ready for it. We can't generate it. It's a lot of technical problems. Um, Data centers, though, are starting to build their own generation. There's some really interesting things where we're seeing data centers start to use geothermal. We're starting to see data centers use at natural gas facilities where they're burning off excess gas. Instead of burning that off and being useless, we're actually burning that off to generate electricity to run a data center nearby. So there are interesting things that people have come up with to get better at generating power. Of course, there's continuing to iterate on solar and wind and other things like that as well. Even data centers in space, which I was at first like, absolutely not, the science isn't there. I was wrong. It is possible for some sizes of satellites to do this in space and keep it cool and run it. So I think there are going to be some interesting things there. What you can do yourself is picking the right size model when you're running an AI task. And that is complicated. It's not just always picking the cheapest one. Sometimes it means picking the most expensive one because it will take less iterations to get it done. So understanding what the models are good at, what the different sizes of models are good at, and picking the right one for your task is the biggest way that you can continue to use AI, but conserve both water and electricity. So I think at the end of the day, the hardest part of using an AI is actually using it responsibly and thinking about the decisions that we're going to make, educating ourselves about what the AI is doing, understanding what the AI is doing, and then making those decisions at the end of the day ourselves and only relying on the data, the AI to help us gather and understand and amalgamate the data. That's all I have to say. Here are some sources for some of the things that I said in this talk, and that you can go and watch YouTube videos or read for yourself to try to educate yourselves on what all of this means in the broader scheme of things. It's also changing every day, so it is really hard to keep up. So, yeah, I think that's it for me.
Wow, lots of hand claps. That's great. Christopher, thank you so much. You made it so simple in a sense of your flow, the data flow. And also, I want to let folks know that at the end of all three speakers there, we're going to open it up for Q&A. And I know there'll probably be some questions in the chat, and that's great. That's fine, because we'll be monitoring that as well. But all of what was said, Christopher, really well said. And yeah, the data centers have certainly been one of these major discussions out there, but you kind of nailed some of the things of the pros and cons of data centers. And I haven't even thought about, when I do my queries, how that's impacting water, ooh, shame on me, right? Okay, well, thank you again, Christopher. We're going to move on to the next speaker there, and we're going to go with, let's see, Dr. Dr. Rose, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
All right. And Dr. Rose, she's a researcher at the University of California, Santa Barbara Center for Spatial Science and the academic coordinator of the UCSB Guide Project. And welcome, Dr. Rose. We really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to what you want to offer here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Let me try to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Okay, let me try to set it. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Sarigai, also known as Rose. I do research at the Center for Spatial Science at UC Santa Barbara, and I'm currently leading this project called the UCSB Guide to the Geographic Approach, which I'm gonna mostly talk about the ethical perspective of this project. So hope it can be interesting to somebody. So we're at the genuinely critical moment in this GIS field. AI has definitely fundamentally changed what GIS can do, and it also changed the ethical stakes in the ways we haven't fully reckoned with it yet. So we have tools now that can process satellite images faster, predict risk across the entire city, automate spatial decisions that affect people's lives. And all those tools can embed bias, enable surveillance, and amplify inequity. So these are also often invisible and at a speed no human analyst could reach. So the GIS community needs to catch up with that reality, and we think curriculum does too. And the UCSB Guide to the Geographic Approach is a UCSB-led collaboration with Esri and the broader GIS community that identifies the skills needed for today's GIS professionals and packages all those lessons in an accessible and free way for both learners and educators. So it emphasizes workflows, ethics, and applied problem solving. And this guide established a framework to evolve the GIS curriculum based on input from across the GIS community, offering materials for teaching and learning GIS using up-to-date technologies. So we have a lot of exciting elements in the UCSB guide, but these three are the things we're really proud of. So we offer different modules, and each module center on an applied problem introduced with a real-world story. So instead of learning it through toy data, you use real data. And we also build these modules on a set of evolving spatial concept and also emerging technologies. And the last but not the last but the most important thing is ethical lessons are embedded in every module. So every module includes a short video or case study that asks learners to deal with a real world ethical issue tied directly to the skills they're working on. So we built this in because GIS professionals are now routinely make decisions with GIS systems that have real consequences. So like who gets infrastructure, who gets flagged as at risk, something like that. And those requires more than technical skills. It requires ethical judgment. So explain a little bit about how ethics is actually woven into this curriculum, because this is something we thought about very carefully. We start with a very strong foundation, the work of the GIS Professional Ethics Project, which established that ethics need to be part of professional GIS training, not an optional add-on. From there, every module has a short ethical lesson, like I mentioned previously, typically a 3 to 5 minute video that introduces an ethical issue connected to whatever skills is being covered that day. We also use the ethical reasoning value rubric to actually assess how GIS professionals and learners are reasoning through ethical problems, not just whether they get the right answer. And then we have ethical case studies where learners work through real dilemmas using a structured 7 steps decision-making framework. We'll get into that framework in a few slides. The key point is ESSEC isn't a standalone unit that you can skip. It runs through every part of the process we make and especially every part of this UCSB guide. So here are just some example. These are some of the modules in our UCSB guide. When someone, for example, when someone learns unlock digital cartography, they're not just learning how to make a map look good. They're confronting a question of how maps can mislead people and what that means for a professional who makes them. When the module covers conservation decisions using remote sensing, raises question about justice and whose land gets protected and whose doesn't. And when we get into GeoAI, the ethical stakes gets even higher because AI can amplify bias at scale in ways that a hand-drawn map never could. So every one of these ethical lessons is a direct connection to the technical skill being taught. The point isn't making the learners anxious about GIS, it's make them thoughtful professionals. So here are our 20 modules. These are all published on our website, open, accessible, free, so everybody can use it to teach or just to learn. As you can see from here, we have different topics, wide range of topics, public health, digital cartography, there are business analysis, urban biodiversity, and we do have some AI specific modules. We have the access hazard with GeoAI module, which is basically more on using GeoAI to do some object detection. And we have the AI assistant one, which is pretty much related to the large language models, how to use those assistant in your workflow more ethically. And we also have using social media to study disaster. That one is more on the natural language processing. And we do have a dedicated ethics in GeoAI module, which I'm going to talk more shortly. But anyway, all these modules have their own ethical lessons related to the spatial analysis used in this each module and also for the problem discussed in the module. So throughout all 20 modules, you'll see different ethical examples and ethical lessons. So for example, this AI assistant in geospatial workflow and design module gets at something that is very current, the difference between two types of AI and GIS professionals and learners are now using constantly. GeoAI is more specialized. It's machine learning built for specific spatial tasks like extracting building footprint or classifying land cover. And generative AI is a little bit different. It's interpret natural language, help us write codes, answer questions. And both are now part of the GIS professionals toolkit, and both require ethical judgment. We focus on 3 things in the ethical lesson here. First, the hallucinations. AI system can generate very confident, plausible sounding output that are pretty much simply wrong. And learners need to know how to verify. Second, the human in the loop. Automation doesn't eliminate professional responsibility. It changes where that responsibility sits. And third, professional responsibility when an AI makes a spatial decision that harms someone who's accountable. That's something we need to think really careful. And now let's talk about this ethics module, which is the Navigate Ethics in GeoAI. This is the module where GIS professionals and learners zoom out from a specific technical skill and ask, what does it mean to be an ethical GIS professional in an era of AI? The module covers 5 core concepts that I think everybody in this room will recognize as genuinely new thing compared to what we were teaching 10 years ago. algorithm bias and fairness, privacy and consent in data collection, professional responsibility when AI is making decisions, transparency, being also able to explain why an AI did what it did, and equity, who benefits from the spatial analysis and who gets hurt by it. The module also gives learners a curated set of resources from the AAG statement of professional ethics to the GIS-CI code of ethics to the data science ethos lifestyle. And it brings all of this together through the 7-step ethical framework, which is something I'm gonna walk through next. So I really want to start with this quote because I think it captures something important. Most ethical harm in GIS is not caused by malicious intent, but by incrementalism. So when we built this module and our ethics lead, ethics expert, Aisha Junkin, she gave us some review and she said all of the case studies in this ethical model is quite obvious. She was mentioning that in the real world, ethical problems are quite subtle. You don't really notice it when you think really ethically and critically. It's the it's the series of small decisions, like the deadline that made something skip a data quality check, the client who asked for just a slightly different map, the assumption no one thought to question, and that slowly adds up to something harmful. So the 7-step framework we use, and I'm going to talk next, is something we teach our students or anyone who's doing GIS analysis to think about when they're dealing with any type of dilemmas. So the 7-step framework we used was first developed by Michael Davis in 1999 and adapted by the GIS Professional Ethics Project, and it's been used and refined by the professional community for decades. And we've adapted it to incorporate the GIS-CI Code of Ethics and contemporary framework like the data science ethos lifestyle. And I'm going to walk through them very quickly. So here are the 7 steps. You start by clearly stating what the problem actually is, not what it looks like on the surface. Then you check the facts before making any judgment. You identify which professional obligations are relevant. You develop a range of options rather than jumping to the first solution. You test those options against ethical standards. You make a defensible choice, and then you reflect. Because the goal isn't just to resolve the dilemma, it's build better judgment for the next one. If we go through the steps one by one, the step one sounds simple, but it's actually where the most ethical analysis goes wrong. The task here is to slow down and articulate exactly what the dilemma is, who is involved, what makes this uncomfortable, not just professionally, but morally, and which values are pulling in opposite direction. Until you can answer those 3 questions clearly, you probably are not ready to analyze anything. And step 2 is about separating what you know from what you think you know. So the task is to gather all relevant information, what actually happened, what laws or regulations apply, what professional standards are relevant, and what the consequences of different action might be. So this step also introduces a key habit. Don't let assumption do the work that facts should do. And then step 3 connects the case into the GIS-CIS code, GIS-CI code of ethics. Learners identify which of the 4 professional obligations are relevant, obligations to society, to employer and funders, to colleagues and the professions, and to the individuals in the society. Often more than one is relevant, and sometimes they conflict with each other. That tension is exactly where the real world ethical work happens. So the step 4 is about to getting trapped in binary thinking. The approach here is to brainstorm 3 or 4 options and then examine each option through 4 ethical lens from the data science ethos life cycle. So positionality, power, socio-technical system, and narrative. And these lenses help surface options that might have been missed because of your own assumptions or position. And then step 5 is to do a stress test. Each option gets run through 7 ethical tests. And the goal isn't to find a perfect option, it's to find that one hold up best. So step 6 is where you commit you choose the option can best defend. And that's not a suggestion, it's like using the rule of the profession. And this step is also asking the GIS professionals to document their reasoning, because being able to articulate why you made an ethical choice is as important as making the right one. So the final step is reflection. What could prevent this type of dilemma from arising again? What individual things make sense? What organizational practice should change? So this step is what transforms ethical training from one-time exercise into a professional habit. And we want everyone, every learners to walk away not just having resolved one case study, but having built a framework for thinking that they will carry into every job and every spatial analysis, every project going forward. So this is just a case study. I'm going to talk a lot about it. It's just in all the case studies we provide in the module, there are like the scenario, and then we talk about the conflict, and then we ask learners, professional students to apply the 7-step framework in the previous slide to analyze the dilemma. So for the UCSB Guide to the Geographic Approach, we are having more modules developing. We're going to develop 5 AI-related modules, which mostly on the GeoAI, more on the machine learning side of the GeoAI, not the large language models. But we also wanted to develop some modules to teach students how to correctly use those agentic AI or large language models. And we want more GIS or remote sensing communities to join us, to use our modules, provide feedback, and also if they have any ideas, they can provide us so we can make more useful modules to the community. So you can scan some of the codes to check out our modules. We also have a YouTube for all the video lectures included in all 20 modules. And we do have a LinkedIn page that we post all the news related to this project. We also have a community page that you can leave your question or ideas there. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Rose. Very thorough. You have gone, yeah, I see a lot of clapping going on. I certainly learned a lot. I've heard of the term hallucinations by AI. That's been brought up in our internal CGI meetings and even planning out these AI webinars, we brought that up. And then the ethics models that you have, and the fact that, it just you have this really thorough process that you use, and you're teaching the students who are our future, in a sense of this technology, keep moving forward, and that's a good thing. So, and also it's so available, it's so open, that you have provided. I provided the link to your project while you were talking. I found it and posted it into the chat so folks can get to it. So, yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's see, we have a third speaker, and I'm hoping they're able to join us. Tracy, do you see them logged in?
Hi, Donna.
Yes, hi.
So I was able to get Sisi on Google Meet,
Oh.
and it seems like I can get video and audio to come through my account. So I'm going to share my screen and allow Sisi to present.
Oh, okay, great. Well, before she gets, well, go ahead and do that, and I'll go ahead and, if it's okay, can we do both? You do that, and I'll talk.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Sisi Wang is Associate Professor at Spatial Sciences Institute, University of Southern California. She's also doubling as an affiliate to the University of Queensland and Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia, as an adjunct associate professor. And so glad you can join us. Yay! We see you.
I'm not, Sisi, can you hear Donna at all? Okay, that's okay. Donna, Tracy, can you hear Sisi?
I don't know if she's talking.
You go ahead and test again.
Not hearing her.
No.
That's good to know. Let's see. How about this is unfortunate. We were testing on the side and it was working. Check. Oh, here we go. Oh, Sisi, try again.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, testing.
Yes, we can hear her.
Okay,
Yay.
perfect.
Yes.
There we are. Sisi, they can hear you, so go ahead and take it away.
Oh, okay. So I can do the screen sharing windows. Okay, to share. This is all good. Let me switch to the presentation mode. Is it good?
Yes.
Looks good.
Okay, so I can just start from here.
Yes, that'll work. Thank you, Sisi.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm traveling right now in Europe and just arrived Poland today, and so there's all kinds of different uncertainties and accidents happen today. But thank you so much for the technical team and organizing team to sort it out. So right now, basically, I would be able to be here. And also thanks for the opportunity offered by CGIA. That's a great opportunity that I can share one of our latest research projects relevant to the AI in the African context. So basically, I know the main theme of today's theory talk is all about AI ethics and inequity, social inequity involved here. So yeah, so that's the topic I want to share. Let me minimize the window. Let's see. Okay. All right, so that's the topic. So generative AI for geographic education in an African context using Tanzania as a pilot study. So basically, this research project was initiated in summer 2025. That's last year. And right now, the research outcome has been shaped as a manuscript right now under review. Entitled as a generative AI for geographic learning in Africa, lessons from Tanzania pilot project, which will be released soon. And then you are very welcome to check it out. Yeah, in the very beginning, a little bit background, why AI in geography? So basically, AI is right now reshaping all kinds of different industries, definitely including our education industry. And geography requires handling very complex and multi-dimensional problems. And AI enhance many of that data production and data manipulation and data analysis in our field, such as spatial data analytics, pattern detection and theory simulation, disaster risk modeling, transportation optimization, inequity analysis, etc., etc. That's basically what's happening in the rest of the world. But the things, when that comes to African context, the things can be very different. So basically, African right now is facing a significant educational challenges, such as teacher shortages. So there is a estimated there's additional need for around more than 120-something thousand teachers needed in order to teach more than 12 million students by the end of 2023. and as well as quite severe classroom overcrowding and textbook lacking. So basically, currently, there are 3 to 4 students sharing one textbook, and as well as limited electricity offering and internet access, and quite significant gender and rural-urban inequities involved here. So that actually comes to the goal of our research project. How could we leverage AI to facilitate education in African countries? So our research questions in this particular case studies is to know how does AI supported education performance comparing to the traditional human-based education. The second research question here is in which way AI-based education is better or worse than the traditional one. The last one is what is the most suitable approach in African countries, so we can take advantage of the AI to facilitate the education over there. All right, so in the very beginning, I would like to give credits to our research team. In addition to myself, we also got another 2 faculty members from the U.S. Universities, and Dr. Xiao Huang from Emory University and Associate Professor Xuebing Wei from James Madison University. So 3 of us, we basically designed curriculum and AI supportive platforms, and work very closely with our local collaborator, who is Ms. Yaya Li, as the founding president and founding chair of the xAI Foundation, who is a true educator, has been working in Tanzania for more than almost 20 years. In terms of our study region, so we focus on a very tiny island in Tanzania. The name is Zanzibar Island, which is actually very famous given it has a very rich tourism resources over there. And even Bill Gates established a 6-star hotel in that island. So make that island is very world famous. So we go to the island and then we select 5 different organizations and schools to collaborate, including 4 public schools at different levels. So there's one is a primary school, which is a rural school in a very rural part in the North Shore, and another 2 to 3 schools at a junior and high school level, including the Zanzibar Health School and the Teacher Training Center. And another one is a public sector. Actually, it's kind of a government organization. So Zanzibar Public Health Institute. So totally, we recruit 133 teachers to involved in the kind of the first wave of the survey. We did not involve students in the very beginning. The reason is we find out the students they don't even have any knowledge about a computer or even have access to the Wi-Fi connection. So we're starting from teachers, given they are better educated and they have a basic idea about AI. So if they are educated and empowered by AI knowledge, they can pass over that AI knowledge to their students. So that's kind of the consideration in the very beginning. Okay, and it comes to the research design. We, as a faculty member, we design a curriculum. So basically, we select 4 different topics relevant to geography, such as what is fundamental geospatial concept, say, what is space, what is a place, what's the difference in between, and what is spatial data, and what is an aggregation, such as a GPS, XY coordinates, and what is map, how to produce a map, and what is the geospatial questions or problems, and 4 different applications in 4 domains, including transportation, public health, urban management, and climate change. All right, so that's a kind of the very traditional presentation slides that we prepared in a very traditional way. And so we start to design the AI tour. So basically, in terms of the human teaching, we are still using the traditional slides like a PowerPoint. But on the other side, as a contrast, we designed an AI teaching by design a generative AI platforms. And these platforms consist of different components, such as Israel's story map with interactive functions, so the students can kind of zoom in and zoom out and play around. It also comes with embedded GPT-4 version chat box, which is available in both English and Swahili. Swahili is kind of the local language. There are many of the local teachers and the students, they do not understand English. And as well as AI-generated videos done by CapCut, and visual examples and the local applications. So yeah, so I put in a link over there, and if you have the interest that you can explore. And we also kind of shape the layout of our generative AI platforms in both kind of a laptop, full screen laptop, and as well as a mobile phone apps kind of layout. So the student, the teachers, they can just using their smartphone to play around. All right, so that's kind of, a couple of the screenshots of the components that we designed here. A video, showing them what is XY coordinates, and there's another one is a Google Earth embedding, and interactive map through the Israel story map, and as well as swapping map function, so the students can also see before and after of the map. All right. So when that comes to the teaching procedure and evaluation. So we divide the entire 133 teachers, the entire group, as two groups. So the first group will go through the teaching, human teaching. So that's basically done by myself. The second group will first go through the generative AI teaching. And after the first round, there will be switched off. All right. So the second group will also have the experience of the human teaching, and then the first group will also have the experience of the generative AI teaching. All right. And for the evaluation purpose, we give them a before and after teaching quiz. So in that way, that we can evaluate how much they can improve their academic improvement before and after the teaching. Okay, so that's the research design and the teaching procedure. So finally, comes to the results. Some of the background about the participants, 133 teachers. So in terms of the age distribution, and we will see most of the teachers, they are in 20s. So they are all very young generation, accounting to the most. And most of them, they all have that digital device experience, at least, using a smartphone and a laptop. And in terms of the geographic knowledge they had previously, most of them, they evaluated as some level, and there are two evaluate themselves as a professional level. All right, so that comes to the round one, human and AI PK competition. So let's see the results. All right. So in terms of the knowledge gains, that's what we can see from the before and after quiz. So basically, the human, the first group, going through the human teaching, they have a 2.3 points improvement comparing to the 2.1 improvement by the AI team. So in that sense, I would say I beat the AI successfully. So I'm really happy. But when we break it down into different gender, different age groups, and the professional levels, we can see the local variations, such as we can see like the female group, they actually with more significant improvement by the traditional teaching versus the male group, they have a more significant improvement in the AI teaching. Or the age group, we will also see the young generation, the 20s, 20-something ages teachers, they have most significant improvement comparing to the older generation. And the professional, yes, they very surprisingly to see the professional, they have more significant improvement through the AI teaching comparing to the human teaching. All right, so that's the first round and the second round of competition in between human and AI. Let's see, this round, we are looking at learning experience. So we ask the survey participants to see, which course keeping you most engaged and easier to understand concept, or which course providing clear and helpful visual and examples, etc., etc. Those different questions. And we will see the blue one is actually indicating traditional teachings done by human being. So we will see in this case, for some of the questions, such as engagement, better understand concept, more helpful and a clear visual and visual components and examples, and give you more confident ask questions. So this kind of domains, we will see traditional teaching is better than AI teaching. So that's a blue bar is much higher than the yellow bar, the yellow bar indicating AI teaching. But on the other side, if we see to look at such as stronger independent exploration, better teaching pace, a better real-world application, and which way that you're going to recommend to your friends, and we will see AI actually performs better than human being. So yeah, so in this case, I would say we're kind of ending up with a draw. And the last round. So the last round is the evaluation of the teaching task. So that is, how the students and teachers understand the key concept, different map types, navigation, GPS, and explore case studies, and motivate themselves to study geography outside of the class. So basically, in this case, we will see the yellow bar indicate AI teaching consistently perform much better than human being in basically all the teaching tasks. So in this round, I lose, very unfortunately, but yeah, that's all fine. AI definitely has advantage and disadvantages here. Yeah, so the last round is a teaching experience. So we do a very quick summary here. So in terms of the limitation, we can see the traditional teaching usually considered as a too passive, versus AI teaching usually subjected to different types of technical problems and issues, especially when there's no Wi-Fi connection and there's no even electricity. That comes to a big problem. But in terms of advantages here, so we can see the traditional teaching usually considered as more engaged and more vivid, versus the AI teaching providing clear visual aids, maps, and tends to be more self-guided. Yeah, so that's facts. So the key takeaway in the very end is the traditional teaching slightly better than for knowledge gains, but AI is definitely better for visuals exploration and self-paced study. And after the quiz, we also did a kind of interview. It's a semi-open interview, and the local students and teachers telling us the blended approach works the best, and it can be the best fit to the local context. All right, and for the future directions, we have been working very closely with the local government, presidential office, and the Zanzibar Public Health Institute by signing a MOU, so which is really good and a very strong motivation over there. So we are also right now developing the offline and the low-cost solution to address the digital problem over there. Such as right now, after we coming back from Africa last summer, we have developed this AI for Education Edu Africa website. So that's www.ai4eduafrica.org. So in this website, we have developed the demo courses, teacher hub, field work, and events. There are actually upcoming more courses across different domains, not just geography, but gradually extended to chemistry, biology, and mathematics. So those are STEM courses. And so those are a couple of the examples here to see how we provide AI training to first the local teachers and then the local students. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the current project, the current stage of the project. And we are quite looking forward to see what happened in the near future with a couple of the funding resources. Hopefully we can secure by the end of this year. And also I would like to give credits and acknowledgement to Female in GIS for providing grants for geospatial work to support this research. And thank you very much. That's my presentation.
Hey, yeah, wow, that's great. Thank you so much for a really great presentation. And I was when I was listening to what you're offering there, I could think of what the term equity, when we're looking at, artificial intelligence, GIS, and the groundwork that you're doing. You're leading a community-based approach in assessing the needs out there. It kind of reminded me of folks mentioning sometimes in Native American country, the digital divide, and that was happening a lot in the 1990s and 2000s. But we're starting to catch up, of course, here in the United States with Native Americans digital access. But I did like the teaching evaluation, the different groups there, the human teaching, the generated AI teaching, and then next steps that you're moving into MOUs and moving forward, that this research project is very meaningful. I'm not sure if you're able to hear me, Professor, but I think I just want to say thank you. And Thomas just relayed to her that everybody gave big claps and and high praises for her presentation. Okay, so Tracy, next. All right, so we have a chance here to do a Q&A, questions and answers. And so should we start from anything in the chat maybe? Thomas or Tracy, see anything there?
Yes, from Jane, I see Jane Schaefer-Kramer. When writing metadata for our GIS data, what can we do better to ensure that AI LLMs get it right? And I believe that was directed to Christopher.
Yeah, I typed a response to that just now. But I think the slightly frustrating answer to that question is, what would you need to write good metadata? Because that's the short answer to the question, because the AI needs the same background information. In practice, I think what that comes down to is it's access to the schema, and if you're talking about the map that is being used in, that map and the symbology and things like that. Even a screenshot of the map can be helpful. And then the kind of my secret to getting it to do the thing is, instead of spending a whole bunch of time trying to write a document, I'll just talk to it for 5 or 10 minutes and take that transcript and drop that into the AI and have it use that as its background or reference material, because I can get a lot of information out over a few minutes. So that's kind of my pro tip. The other thing that makes a big difference is letting the AI query the data, which is not always allowed necessarily, depending on what the data is. But when it can query the data, it's much better at figuring out what's actually in these fields, because it can look at it, and it'll do a much better job.
Thank you so much, Christopher.
Yes, we had a question from Costas. Did you see that one, Tracy? Yeah, Costas was asking for all the speakers, how can we as community of professionals ensure that both employers and end user adhere to established professional ethics and protocols. That was his first question. What can we do to collectively, as a GIS organization, to make sure these rules and protocols are respected and recognized?
Speakers. How can we, as a community of professionals, ensure that employers and any users here establish professional ethics and the protocols we can do collectively as a GIS organizations to make sure these rules and protocols are respected and recognized? Okay.
I think, sorry, I just have a little bit thought on that as an educator, also as a student. I graduated last year, so I'm like very fresh. So I feel like in general, when we teach GIS, ethic is not something taught very thoroughly. When I am doing my PhD and doing my master's, I didn't really take any specific classes related to ethics. The only class that made me, of course, it's kind of embedded in different classes. When we teach maps, we always talk about how maps can lie. But it's not like there's like something really teach us in each class to talk about how important it is. And that's also, I think the guide put ethics in each module is very important. And also, I think we need more like that type of classes to just train GIS professionals or students at the first place. When they do any type of analysis, they need to think about the consequences. I remember before I take my critical cartography class, I always treat data as data. Like I just use the data as it is. I don't think too much about the data. And after I get trained by the critical cartography class, I think more about the data. So I think there's this type of training is definitely needed. And I think that's kind of not very emphasized in our geography or GIS education in general.
Right. Well said. Anybody else, the presenters, want to respond to Kosta's questions?
I think all of that is true. I think Rose did a great job of summarizing that. I think as someone who has to hire or sometimes has to hire folks coming out of school, I think that we often focus too much on educating our young people on how and not what and why. And so like they often come to me and they know how to push buttons in name your GIS software of choice, but they don't know why they're pushing those buttons and they don't know what they're doing it for. And I think that to me is what's going to be critical as AI continues to spread, not just in GIS, but across many places. I think that is going to be, it's going to be very critical going forward that we can think critically about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what output that AI has produced.
Well said. All right.
Do you want me to follow the order that you put in the chat box? Because you are putting there are a couple of different questions here.
Yeah, Sisi. So I have you on audio if you'd like to respond to Kostas's question.
Which one?
That was how can we as a community of professionals ensure that both employers and end users adhere to established professional ethics and protocols?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think that's a super common question. Not just a question in our academia, but as well as in the industry. I think that's basically important to have kind of community all agree standards to regulate AI ethics and relevant issues. I believe Silicon Valley has already had this standard. As what I heard from all these IT companies, I believe that standards is available. But the problem is it's kind of less applied in academia, but more applied in industry. So I think right now, I think the significant problem is here how we bridge, this kind of two sides, community, industry, academia, and as well as the ending users as kind of another group. So that's a common question, but I believe that standard has already been released somehow and available. So the problem comes to how we apply consistently across the different groups. But I would be less concerned too much, given it's kind of a common thing when there's any new thing invented to the human society, right? So you're like dating back to early 90s when the internet becomes popular. We have the same problem, right? So everyone talks about how we can regulate internet, the regulations and ethics involved here. So here we have the same thing. So I would say definitely we're gonna figure out, and we can follow some of the existing rules and regulations, and then to see better apply to across the different groups. So that's kind of my 2 cents here.
Very good. Thank you so much. Are there other questions
Thank
there?
you.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any more questions. Anybody raise their hand? Have any questions? I guess my question would be for any of the presenters. Did you have any questions for CGIA, or did you want to express anything else beyond what you provided about
Is there
the
another
AI?
question here? I think those are comments. Thank you for bringing the AI education.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present here, to share our project. We definitely want more people to use what we developed. We put so much effort and time and, money in it. Definitely want people to benefit from what we build. And I don't really know much about the organization because I wasn't in California during my PhD. So yeah, I would love to get involved more. So yeah,
Yeah,
I want to learn more about the association. If
well,
there's
thank you, Dr. Rose, and congratulations too in graduating. That's and it's like you're the bridge. You were a student not too long ago, but now you're jumping in full force into providing focus on the ethics. And it's so important. And I think you're certainly in a key position to be able to do that. And Christopher, thank you too for your information is so valuable. Although you work out of your garage,
I do.
It's all right. It's homegrown, and that's what we need. We need the grassroots efforts, but also you're very much high tech in there. And I know that you have a lot to share beyond what you shared today. But thank you so much. And yeah, so all the presenters again, I want to thank you. And I think we're pretty much done. Tracy?
Yes, I think so. Thank you so much to the speakers. I learned so much and I'm very grateful.
All right, so let's go ahead, and I see a lot of clapping going on. And one of the questions too was will the presentations be available? And I think the chat response was in there already, and it will be available through the YouTube, I guess, link. Yeah. So, okay, well, I guess Tracy, I guess we're done, and Thomas, and I want to thank everybody with the CGIA engagement committee. You guys did a great job in pulling the 4 webinars together. It was back in, I think, February or March where we started thinking about this idea about hosting AI. But I do know in tribal country, the just education of what is AI, that ground level foundation, is important. And then you launch into some of the discussions like we had today and the previous webinars. But all those webinars are available through the YouTube link that was provided earlier. So feel free to go back and maybe listen in on some of that the prior webinars. Again, thank you, CGIA, everybody, and all the folks that attended. I saw we're up to close to 40 folks participating today. And please fill out that survey if you have a chance, and look forward to other future webinars. Thank you so much.